there is a big chance that you don't even know what freedom actually is. And you're not alone. 4 years ago, I made a film about the meaning of freedom, which has been watched over 100,000 times by now. And what I learned at the end of this project was that there was still a lot to learn. And if you're fascinated or yearning for freedom in some kind of shape or form, maybe this can be a starting point. Because I don't know why, but I thought freedom simply is freedom. But then when I was actually making that film, people were mentioning aspects of freedom that I didn't even think about. Obvious things like physical freedom, financial freedom, but also spiritual freedom, freedom of mind, freedom of speech, and many more. For some, freedom was something along the lines of, I can do whatever I want. For others, then again, it was something simple like opening and owning their own business. Meanwhile, I was busy being so proud that my privileged ass escaped the system. But looking back, I only escaped responsibility. And the reason I was even able to escape was only because I was already enjoying certain kinds of freedom others would still dream of. Freedom is not just one thing. And as long as there is something that we call humanity, it is not up to me or you only to define it. If that felt somewhat irritating, that's probably normal. I personally assume most people don't think about this ever. And I can understand it, because on the one hand, you know what you know. But then on the other hand, you don't think about what you don't think about, right? Obviously not. It's literally out of question. It would be absurd. So when I film myself in public, most people won't assume that I have something important to say, or maybe that they should stop and listen, but they will do the obvious. They will think things like, that's weird. What is he doing? But just because something seems out of place, that doesn't mean that there's no point to it. And just because you don't think about something, doesn't mean that there's nothing to think about. Think about it. So do I have the perfect answer now? After making a film about the meaning of freedom, after talking about it and contemplating it for years? Nope. What I've learned painfully over the last years is that there are things I might never be able to totally comprehend, simply because I lack the experience. I don't know how it feels like to grow up with structural and systematic racism. I don't know what it is like to grow up in extreme poverty, communism, or dictatorship. And I don't know what it is like to flee my country or even fight in a war. And just because I somehow might be able to imagine or somehow relate to it, I don't know what it is like. I am here, isolated, all by myself, with my personal opinion, with my subjective worldview, limited and limiting what I can know about the meaning of freedom. The sad but simple truth is, most people don't really think about freedom. Not too much. At least not really, not deeply. Comfort doesn't require you to question its reasons. Pretty much like this sentence just doesn't seem to make too much sense, so why bother? Why stop the video? Why think about it? It is only when what you've considered granted so far gets taken away from you that you realize how valuable it is. Like back in 2020, remember that? But that didn't make anyone think that human rights are just an idea some people have dreamt up for Western societies. But hey, let's not get political. Let's get real. There is no ultimate freedom. But if you leave everything behind, when you're on your own and when you have the money, then you're still part of the system. But you can do what you want, but only because of the system. Where would you go if no place was ever founded? No countries, no borders, no maps. What would you buy or pay with if there was no money, no economy, no goods? What would you do when there was nothing to do? You don't understand. I escaped the system. No. You're taking advantage of it. I don't need the system. Really? Then what would you be free from when there was no system? I just would be free. Free from what? Free of what? Just free. Yes, of course. So free would be normal. Well, yes. Then you wouldn't need the word free anymore, would you? So how do you know you're not free already? Because there are things that hold me back. People who tell me what to do. There are restrictions. Wait. So is it maybe that you can only be free exactly because of that? What? Are you maybe only free because the opposite exists? Just like we can only have this conversation because there's two of us and not just one. Just like silence only makes sense when there's noise to break it, but not in the absence of it. I am not sure I follow, to be honest. Okay, let's try this. You can't have truth without lies, mistakes, and illusions, and all the negatives. Otherwise, everything would be true. You wouldn't need truth. You wouldn't need that concept. Wait, so are you saying the good comes with the bad, and without the bad, there wouldn't be any good? I see you.